What's going on, everybody? We are back for the final time in the 2024-2025 season. Unfortunately, the Bills season has come to an end, and they fall just short again of the Super Bowl. They fall just short in the AFC Championship game, and they fall just short to the Kansas City Chiefs once again. So, waited a couple extra days to record this just to make sure I got all my anger and immediate feelings out of it, so I could try and give a more calm and not so emotional response. But I'm just gonna give you my thoughts after a couple days, and they're not, if they haven't changed by now, they're not gonna change. So Buffalo falls just short in Kansas City, a game that stung a little bit harder this time around. At least for me, it did. As I mentioned in previous videos, I am the definition of a pessimistic fan. I never go into a game and feel confident or feel or just like our chances in that game. And for whatever reason, I felt confident. I didn't feel anxious about this game. I really thought this was the team, and this was the year that was finally going to get us over that hump. And to come up just short, man, it for whatever reason, man, it stings extra hard this year. And part of it's definitely going to be because I don't feel like it was a game that they should have lost. Quite frankly, it was a game that they had won, and it was a game that I feel in some ways was kind of stolen from them. You look back on certain plays towards the end of the game, certain calls that were made, and it's not hard to sit back and look and think that that certain calls and certain decisions made by the officiating didn't sway this game. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, just because there's plenty of other people doing it for me. So I'm not going to waste my breath or get myself too worked up about it. But I even touched on it last week. Going into the game, it's the Bills match up fairly decent against the Chiefs. It's just, is it going to be a fair game down the middle? And once again, I don't feel that it was. So anyway, I guess since I can't preview a next week game, I can just, I guess, give you my breakdown of the Bills season as a whole. Some things I liked, some things I'd like to see changed, and give my thoughts on what at least I'm going to expect going into next season. So I thought as a whole, obviously for a team that was supposed to be rebuilding this year, a team that was viewed by many, especially in the media, as taking a major step back this year, for them to come out and just dominate a lot of the games and win their division and make it to the AFC Championship game. Obviously, it was a very successful year from that aspect. Obviously, from the aspect of coming up short of a Lombardi, obviously in that aspect it wasn't successful. But like I said, just comparing the narrative before the season to what actually played out, I think all in all it was a good season for the Bills. It's just you get to the end of these seasons every year, and you're not holding that trophy at the end of the year, man, and you look and you got a guy like Josh Allen who just gives it his all every single game. Heck, he played most of this season with a broken left hand. And then, reports come out that he hurt his throwing hand, in the game against Kansas City and played through that. And, he's a guy that's, 120% every game. And you don't know how many more seasons left you're going to get with this guy in his prime. And I think that's another reason why it stings as well, coming up short once again is, you just don't know how much time you got is, with him under center for the Bills. And, obviously we hope that it's for a while, but, it's the NFL, things happen, and you're not guaranteed, a next season. It's just like life. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. And, so, from that aspect, I hope that some things in the front office and some things that get, I don't know the exact how I want to word it, but just some of the ways that they approach some of these game plans surrounding Josh going forward. I hope that they are able to make some moves to protect him from him, and to protect hopefully the longevity of his career. So things I like this season, I like the fact that once again the Bills' offensive line for the most part was one of the top offensive lines in the league. You saw that with the emergence of James Cook this year. I've been singing his praises for the last couple seasons, and this year he finally took that step to where national media and players around the league recognized him. He's going to the Pro Bowl this year. It was just announced as one of the replacements, but nonetheless he's going to the Pro Bowl, which he is well deserved on. And I did like the fact that we were able to, whenever we lost Diggs, it was kind of, who's going to be the guy in Buffalo? They drafted Keon Coleman. That, to me, his rookie season, I'd give that a C-, being generous. Obviously, he missed games due to injury, but even when he was on the field, his route running wasn't all that impressive. He did make a few contested catches, that made highlight reels, but the way he was he just wasn't able to get separation. And yeah, his route running is definitely got to improve going forward. And it kind of took away, him being. I almost viewed him as a wide receiver 3 this year, to be honest. And the guy that kind of filled in for Diggs this year was Khalil Shakir, which, kind of by default with him being the longest tenured, receiver there. So, heck of a season from Shakir. Continues to impress, and obviously look forward to having him back next year. A guy I was really surprised about was Mac Hollins. When they signed him, we thought it was kind of just being getting, just a cheap body to come in and compete at camp or whatnot, and he turned out really to be our wide receiver 2 all year. He was a little sketchy there in the beginning, but he kind of came into his own and became a reliable target for Josh, and Josh trusted him quite a bit. I mean, heck, you saw it in the playoff games. He had a few big catches in the playoffs, so that was a nice sign there. The Amari Cooper trade, I mean, to me, that's still, at the time, it was great because Buffalo was getting him on the league minimum salary, and Cleveland was paying all the rest of that massive contract he was owed for this year. But he came to Buffalo and he didn't make that big of an impact, surprisingly enough. A guy that is well known for, creating separation and getting open. He seemed to have a hard time doing that in Buffalo as well. So, that one kind of stunk. The other jarring factor to me on offensive wise was the tight ends for the Bills. Just after last year when they drafted Dalton Kincaid and everybody was raving about, they're going to have Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid. It's just going to be a lethal duo of tight ends that they can tandem and set out there and, kind of almost run it back to the Patriots days when they had Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, out there running stuff together. But for whatever reason, man, the tight end, again, I'm trying to think of the right word to call it. Just the contribution from the two of them has been very underwhelming. For a second season from Kincaid, playoff game aside, he was very underwhelming. Had drops in key moments, again, outside of the playoff game. Dawson Knox, again, was kind of he was there, he had a couple catches here and there, but it wasn't the production I think many Bills fans thought they'd get out of him. They thought, especially with Diggs going to Houston, that we were going to see a big play and contribution from the tight ends, and it never came this year. And to me, that's definitely, I don't know if that was by play call design or they just weren't open. But that was one of the big shockers to me. Defensive wise, we need help. Our secondary needs revamping quickly. Our defensive line needs revamping quickly. Obviously, the secondary this year was always going to be viewed as, just a work in progress due to the fact that, Jordan Poyer left, went to Miami. Micah Hyde sat out most of the season before he re-signed with the Bills, but he never suited up and played. And so your main guys back there were, a DeMar Hamlin or Rasul Douglas, Taylor Rapp, just guys that, outside of Rasul Douglas, like the other two that I mentioned, guys that are kind of just career backups. And they were thrust into the starter role and asked to shut down some, big-name quarterbacks this year, and they did not step up to the challenge in a lot of ways. I mean, DeMar Hamlin had a few interceptions this year, but overall it seemed like, those were the guys that kind of got picked on. I mean, for what they were asked to do and their experience, I can't knock them. It's more of a front office thing. But again, the cap space situation for the Bills, they weren't in a great spot, so they kind of just had to go with what they had. Christian Benford's another guy that he stepped up and played really good when he went out in the Kansas City playoff game. That was, I knew we were in deep trouble then, just because they put in Kyer Elam, and boy, that is one first-round draft pick that Brandon Beane just totally whiffed on. That guy is, he has no business playing football in the NFL. He probably should go to try out the XFL, if I'm being honest. But yeah, then as far as the defensive line goes, they cannot seem to find a way to get to the quarterback in big spots, in big games. It seems like, they sacked Lamar, to their credit, a couple times in the divisional round, but when it came in the AFC Championship game, they got to Mahomes, I think, once, maybe twice. And part of that, yes, it was Kansas City, having these quick quick throws to disrupt some of the pass rush, but they were very inconsistent all season long. You get a guy like Ed Oliver who, he'd show up like the divisional game, man. He showed up and was wreaking havoc all game long, but then in the AFC Championship game, you barely heard his name called. I mean, he made a splash, obviously, here and there, but and then another guy like Greg Rousseau, another guy that was drafted high, same kind of deal. He wreaks havoc in a game, and then he'll go MIA for a week or two, and then he'll show up, and everybody's like, oh, that's why we drafted him. And just inconsistent. And then obviously, you got Von Miller, who is just hanging on for dear life because he's got a guaranteed massive contract with the Bills that was another blunder by the front office, I feel like. But so we got age that's hurting us, and then we got guys that are just inconsistent. So that's kind of my review on the team. I mean, overall, like I said, this season I would give them an A-, just considering what they were expected to be versus what they actually were. So yeah, from that aspect, I give them an A-. What I would like to see them do going forward, I kind of just hinted at it a little bit. A lot of folks inside the Bills, I guess, fan base, you could call it, just the whole circle of the Bills, even ownership and whatnot. For the most part, everybody loves Brandon Beane. For the most part, I've been a big Brandon Beane guy, but to me, and I've felt this way for probably since the playoffs started, it's kind of churned that feeling up for me, and I've seen it validated by a lot of social media talk, is the way that he has drafted in the first round and has missed on guys, minus Josh Allen, and then Tremaine Edmonds. Outside of those guys, man, it's hard to go back and look at a successful day one or first draft pick selection from Brandon Beane. You go back and look, like I said, this past year they didn't have a first round draft pick, but they did. They traded out, but their first selection in this year's draft was Keon Coleman. They could have had other guys, Worthy, for example, who just torched us in the AFC Championship game. Could have had him. You go the year before, we took Dalton Kincaid. He has still yet to come into his own. And you can keep going farther back, pretty much through his entire time here. I mean, heck, I've even, I touched on him earlier, Kyrie Elam. That was a major swing and miss. Now, to be fair, he's hit on guys later in the draft. So, it's not me totally knocking him as a drafter, but what I'm trying to say is the first round to second round, he's yet to really impress outside of Josh Allen. So what I would like to see done is go make a trade. Go bring in a star-studded defensive player. A guy, say, like a Max Crosby, or a guy like Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's getting a lot of buzz for trying to get out of Cleveland, or Cleveland trying to move on from him, but, either way. Cleveland would love a first-round draft pick. And if Buffalo could get Myles Garrett, to me, man, you make that move. Even if he doesn't have, a whole bunch of time left on his career, man, if you could get a Myles Garrett on that Bills team, even for just a few seasons, well, you still have Josh Allen in his prime, a guy that would wreak havoc on defense. I mean, to me, that's worth it. Others might disagree. Others might say he's not worth the first round pick. Maybe. But the dude is just, he's continuously played at a high level his entire career. Obviously, I might be a little biased being a A&M guy, but he's a stud, and he would fit perfectly, I feel like, in that Bills locker room. So, and I would make, I'd even go farther and make a splash and get you a wide receiver too. It's been, well known that whenever it comes time in these games, Josh has got to have some more options. For the most part this season, he's done more with less, but there's been times this year where, things have been limited for him just, from the options he's had, and I feel like that, kind of hurt him in the AFC Championship. Not saying that's an excuse or anything at all, just an observation, but if you could go out there and find a team that is in, a rebuild mode and wants draft picks, man, throw you a second or a third rounder out there. Go get another weapon. And Bean is very protective of his draft picks, and I get it. Most general managers are. But man, like I said earlier, you have Josh Allen in the prime of his career. You look at the NFL, there are maybe 4 or 5 elite quarterbacks, guys that you would go to their team and say, would you trade your quarterback for this? And those teams would say no. And obviously, Josh Allen is one of those quarterbacks. So, to me, you want to do everything in your power to win now. And I get being protective of draft picks and all that, but man, you're only guaranteed so much time with this dude as your quarterback. Go out there and make a freaking move, man. Go try and break the curse that's in Buffalo. Get us back to the Super Bowl. I mean, heck, it's been 31 years. Will he do it? I don't know. I hope so. I hope he makes some kind of a splash. But we'll see. There's a lot of guys that are free agents this year coming off the books for the Bills. I would like to see them bring back Mac Hollins. I feel like he's just a Buffalo guy. He fit in really well. Josh trusts him. So I'd like to see him back. I don't have the full list of free agents in front of me, but I know there's quite a few this year, so that's just the first name that jumps out to me. But I don't know, man. It's going to be a long few months until we get to the draft, and then obviously, from there, I guess we can really look forward and see, what all shakes out. Obviously, nothing's gonna really happen until after the Super Bowl, so we got that to look forward to, I guess, if you're gonna watch it. Me myself, I don't foresee that being on my television screen 2 Sundays from now, but if y'all are gonna tune in, I hope y'all enjoy the game. If you're an Eagles fan or a Chiefs fan, good luck to you. I appreciate everybody tuning in this year. It's been kind of a therapy release to come on and talk about the games, good or bad. So appreciate everybody tuning in. This will be it for football until next season, but good news is football ends, but that means NASCAR's right around the corner, so be sure to stay tuned. I'm going to try and do my best to put out some NASCAR content this year for everybody, so stay tuned for that. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in. this season, and until 2025 training camp rolls around, we'll see you then. Go Bills.